Okay, I think you can see me here. It's August 4th, 2016. So, I'm going to call this one Panic Attacks Since 2003. When I got illegally evicted from my home because I was cut off of welfare 9 months even before the legislation had been passed. Because I couldn't go to work, people. I was off of welfare for 6 years. I worked on a nonprofit. Had a lot of issues with a lot of people just playing games. Right? I already explained that in my last video. You know, people taking my books and not doing them properly and holding them hostage and, you know, gang stalking me in the courtyard and, you know, just that mob mentality, right? Lots of panic attacks around that, people, but, you know, I braved through it, right? I did the best I could. And of course, Uncle John looked after himself all those years by himself, right? Nobody helped Uncle John. The kids weren't there for Uncle John. I wasn't there for Uncle John. You know, Uncle John was just a little speck of dust on some sort of ornament. Was a non-consumer. It was a carbon, a mineral. It wasn't human. So anyway, I have panic attacks like all the time. I get them over when it rains because everything gets wet and ruined out in the yard because of the improper storage. And because what little storage I do have, I can't fix it correctly, right? So I'm getting panic attacks with the rain. It rained last night. It started raining this week. You know, I'm trying not to complain because, you know, at least I have a roof over my head, right? I have no money to buy tar paper to fix that one shed roof and then to silicone it and to try and make it so that it doesn't leak. Because I still haven't gotten inside there and gutted everything, right? Because it's all molded, people. I have to wash everything, right? But there's no point in washing it right now if I can't fix the roof on that shed. And because Uncle John's not here, I can't hire anybody to do it. I haven't hired anybody to work for a long time to do anything, right? And I can't even buy the materials, right? Same thing with this porch. It should have been fixed when I first moved in. If it would have been fixed when I first moved in, it would have been 6 years of peace instead of 6 years of heartache and panic attacks and stress, which is going to start all over again because it leaks, right? It's never been fixed correctly. So I get panic attacks with that. Same thing with the garage. The garage leaks and that fucking shit up on top is going to come busting through. So I'm trying to motivate people to help me to clear out the garage so that we can pull that down. Let that shaving shit from the floorboards that they just covered up with plywood fall down to the ground and then just staple the plastic back up. But it goes in one ear and out the other ear while everybody complains to me. So I'm getting panic attacks with that because the garage is going to start leaking again soon. And I haven't had a chance to gut it and do that stuff, right? Never mind fix the shed and try and prevent this leakage that's going into the shed and into the garage. Because that porch is getting rotten. It's going to crash in the next couple of years, if not sooner. And I suppose that will be my fault too, right? 15-year-old freaking porch and it finally goes and it's my fault. Maybe that porch is like 20 years old. Who knows how old that freaking porch area is, that garage. I mean, it could be 25 years old for all we know. But when it goes, it will be my fault, right? Just everything's my fault. So that gives me panic attacks, right? So anyway, the reason I'm doing this video is because I'm having panic attacks, right? Okay, we already know that my daughter, my youngest daughter, got a little part-time job. Nothing major, people. She hardly works any hours. She's so frustrated she wants to go try and find another job because she's not getting enough hours. Don't distract me. And And I was asking her, please give me your pay stubs, right? Because I have to claim it on my social assistance check. And she just didn't have any pay stubs and forgot to go to the bank and get a printout. And I'm like, you have to give it to me. You have to give it to me. You have to give it to me. So finally, 3 months later, she came and she gave it to me. So I put the one lump sum between the 3 months that she worked, right? It was a total of like $800 that she made over a period of 3.5 months or something. Just a teenager, just 18 years old, right? And government turned around and they took off $300 and some odd cents, $337 or something like that. Because I didn't claim it over a period of the 3-month period. And to make matters worse, it's just coincidental that I didn't get my $100 a month child support this month. How coincidental, right? So that's like another $100 less. That's $437 out the door. So, here's the thing. Internet, cable, telephone, like that kind of stuff. There is no more cable TV, right? That's gone. I still owe a little bit of money on it. Not much, like $70 or something. But the internet and the telephone, I owe. And I'm already behind like almost 2 months on that bill. Right? And it never got paid this month. Right? Royal's not getting paid. So, when I talked to Royal, last time I talked to Royal, because they can't locate John. Whoever is phoning the bank, third party, assuming that it's John's sister, Eleanor, is saying that John was a nutcase in the year 2000 and that when he tried to reestablish his credit, it was a mistake. He didn't know what he was doing. So therefore, based on what Eleanor says, John is not taking any responsibility for that bill. That's what the bank told me, basically. And I'm like, well, I don't have the money, right? So you need to go after John. Well, we don't know where John is. So we have to warn you, your credit's going to get ruined. I said, oh, okay. But you've already closed the account. Right? You didn't investigate to find out where John is. You just took some third-party phone call for face value, jumped on the beat up on Judy campaign, right? And want to proceed to trash my name and my credit. So because I couldn't pay Royal this month, well, it's going in that direction. That's another panic attack. Commerce has been fucking around with me since day fucking one. Long story short, since all this has transpired with John, all of a sudden, you know, they're charging more money for this and more money for that and increasing the interest rate and adding on an extra fee and all this other shit. To put me in the hole, people. To put me in the hole. And it's been kind of going like that ever since Uncle John's been gone. And it's just like really bad now. It's like really bad. It got so bad to the point where I just phoned them up and said, I close my account. It's $19,000. I close it. I will work on paying down the principal and the $389 a month that you charge me every month in interest now. Right? Because they increased the interest rate because I was late 1 month, right? Because I had to play catch up with something else, right? And then they charge another $30 here and another $30 there. And they do this every month, people. Well, because I didn't get my $437, I'm now $200 short on my Visa. So what do I get on the phone today? Today's the 4th. I just put $200, my last $200, my only $200 on the Royal, on the Commerce, right? I couldn't give him 4 because I didn't have 4, because I didn't get the child support, and my daughter I'm being penalized for my daughter being responsible. Responsible poor people get punished. I've said it before, and I'm saying it again. Only white-collar criminals get rewarded. People who steal money through fraud get rewarded. People who medically kidnap vulnerable elderly people and dope them up so they can't walk away, and then take them off and hide them in some fucking prison somewhere where they can't get out, and isolate them from the public, and then proceed to brainwash them as they scoop out the brains so that the memory of 30 years is wiped out, so that the truth can't come out as to what happened to them. Those people get rewarded. So, anyway, I'm having panic attacks. Because not only is that happening, but these same kind of people that do this kind of stuff are, they've taken it to some hate website, and, they're proceeding with their smear campaign. And then they have the audacity to sit up there and talk about how they think so-and-so is nice in terms of one of my family members. I'm not going to be specific about anybody, or they're not attacking my children, or they're not attacking my grandson. That's a bunch of crock, people. It's a bunch of crock. You attack me, you attack my family. You attack John, you attacked us. And in terms of these little care homes, you have to remember, we went to see Joan for over a year. Well, a year. Joan was in one for 1 year. And I can tell you what they're about, people. They're these sectioned off, I want to call them prison wards. I do. Because they're all under lock and key. Every section is a lock and key. You have to buzz with codes and all this other shit. You can't leave unless you buzz out and print out and key out. You can't get in unless you buzz out, print out, or key in. Right? And when you go in, what you find is a big open common area with one TV in it. A little over there are a bunch of dinner tables. And then for the majority of the day, people, for the majority of the day, all those old people do is sit. The nurses and the care workers, what they do is they dress them up, change their diapers, put on bibs for the ones that are drooling, and then put them in a wheelchair for the ones that can't walk, and then just wheel them into the common area, and those people just sit there. That's all they do. They sit there with the rest of them just sitting there, with a few of them wandering around because they can still walk, right? And when Joan was in there, there was one blind woman that used to wander blind through the whole area within that little section, D section, E, like jail. They have section E, they have section F, they have section A, on this floor, section B on the second floor, section G on the third floor. It's all blocked off like a fucking prison. So anyway, in Joan's prison ward, right, they had this blind woman that would wander around, because it's not a very big section, it's just a few halls with rooms on each side, then your common area, and then your dinner area within connected to your common area, and then your in and out, lock in and key and get out key, right, through the door. Only one door to get in and out. And you have to have a key to get in and out. And she used to wander around blind and just bump into things, wander into people's rooms. She used to bother Joan all the time. Joan used to scream in her bed, "Get out, get out, get out." I've seen it for myself because I used to take John there to go visit Joan. This woman would just wander around into people's rooms, bumping into things, wander around in a common room, and that was one resident. Another resident was an old Chinese lady that was put into a wheelchair with her diaper, right? They'd wheel her into the common area by the TV. Well, the other residents were sitting there trying to watch TV. As they're trying to watch TV, this little Chinese woman would just constantly holler out, "Bah, bah, 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 bah." elderly people had to deal with every day, day in and day out. John and I, we used to look at each other. He said, Judy, I don't ever want to be in this situation. I said, John, I don't blame you. Don't worry, you won't be. But we know that didn't happen, people. And as for these little, rumorvilles with John going on these little holidays, well, you know what? Again, Joan was in that little care ward for a year. Sure, once or twice a year, they go for their little field trips for the ones that are able to do it. For the ones that are able to do it. And when you factor in that you only go once every couple of, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So that's what? There's 365 days out of a year minus 4 days. So what happens to the other 361 days? Like, how the hell you can watch TV? You got 25 old people sitting there trying to watch TV, one TV in one common area, with a blind woman bumping into them, with another Chinese woman sitting there going, There's your care home, people. That's just one example. One example. So no matter what people say, it is no way to live. Unless, of course, you can afford $3,500 a month for quality care. But if you're paying on the low end of the scale, $1,500, $1,700, $1,800, that's the quality care. Just remember that. Well, John's sitting there in his diaper with a bib on, people, because he drools. He drooled when I met him. He has buck teeth. He always drooled. Just got worse as he got older. That's all. It's like a man pissing in a toilet and doesn't make it and pisses all over the floor. All right? Pissing all over the walls behind the toilet. Some things just don't change, people. So he's sitting there, trust me, in a diaper with a fucking bib on. He's not walking that much. If at all. If at all. So anyway, I'm having panic attacks as usual. Right? Because this, again, is this little colluded group of professionals that target minority families and poor families. The natives got it hard. Right? They're almost decimated within their culture because of the stress and the panic attacks that come from this kind of activity over generations, right? Taking children away from the family. So, that kind of stuff. And killing off fathers, like I said, in Malcolm X's case. And, robbing mothers of their inheritances. And then in John's case, just not being told that he had one, right? And then he was medically kidnapped and, whisked off to some fancy-dancy fucking care home, right? After they got what they wanted, right? As I'm sitting here being attacked by a bank that facilitated the whole thing by not honoring its contracts, basically. Because it chose to take a bribe instead, right? Gotta be quiet.